You can watch Man City versus Liverpool on Now TV for just €10. So what's stopping you? Going shopping again? You're already on first name basis with the sales assistant. A family party? Your Aunt Mary has seen you 4 times this week already. This is a cracking fixture. Don't let anything get in your way. To treat yourself to a Now TV Sky Sports Day Pass and watch the games that matter to you for just €10, search Now TV Football today. Content streamed via internet. Full terms at nowtv.com.
Welcome into the Sportsmemo podcast for Wednesday, January 2nd, 2019. Happy New Year to all the listeners out there. We appreciate you tuning in. Today's subject matter is college basketball. We got a big card today, big card tomorrow. So college basketball taking center stage here as far as hopefully getting a leg up on the betting markets. Our guest today, Brent Crow. Brent, welcome into the podcast. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. How was the break?
There wasn't a break, really. I mean, There's been a little break. Been action every day. Mostly it's been college football and the bowl games, which I had a really nice run until Ohio State coughed up a 28-3 fourth quarter lead yesterday. But the college basketball has been kind of slow as far as the number of games, but that all changes tonight. We're back with a full slate of action today, tomorrow, and from now on. I mean, it is now officially college basketball season, so I'm looking forward to that, and I know you are too. I think you've been hot in college basketball.
Yeah, no, it's been good. So college basketball, like we said, taking front center stage. Brent's a great choice for college basketball. Also has a 5% play up for the national championship game in college football. So you can get his 7-day all access right now at sportsmemo.com. It will give you his college basketball, NFL, and college football. And by using the coupon code WEEK69, that's WEEK 69 at checkout, it will give you $60 off his 7-day all access, which will give you his national championship game and college basketball slate and NFL. You can use that Week 69 coupon code with any other handicapper as well at sportsmemo.com. So make sure to check that out on the website. Brent, let's get into today's games. We got a couple Big 12 games here, some big ones here. Texas Tech versus West Virginia. Texas Tech, what about a top 10 team? Number 11, I believe. 7-3-9-3, 7-9-4 on the rotation numbers using Sports Memo's odds screen here. We got 4 or 4.5 Texas Tech laying on the road. 137 the total, Brent. And I'll throw it over to you. Just first wanted to say Texas Tech has had some issues turning it over. If you had to pick a weakness, it would probably be their offensive turnover percentage. Are about middle of the pack in the nation. Going up against that West Virginia press, under Bob Higgins, they're going to be doing that. That could be an issue here for Texas Tech. Also on the road, West Virginia has played well of late at home. I believe their only loss at home was against Buffalo, which is a pretty good team, and that was the first game of the season. So have they righted the ship? You like West Virginia here? You think Texas Tech, the more talented Texas Tech team, is the side?
Well, I've watched both teams play, and I know for one thing, West Virginia this year is not as good as they have been, and they're still commanding, or they were still commanding some higher prices, or they were lying to like they had been the last couple of years. But you look at this game, and that ain't the case. I mean, they're getting 4.5 at home now against Texas Tech, and it's amazing how quick the market catches up these days, and it certainly has with West Virginia. I was kind of baffled that this number actually opened 3.5 and is now 4.5, and I think it's deserved. I mean, like I said, I don't like this West Virginia team nearly as good as last year's, and they're known for pressure defense, forcing turnovers, but heck, they hadn't done it this year. They're only 201 in the country in turnover percentage by opponents, so they're not forcing anywhere near the turnovers that they normally do. As a matter of fact, Texas Tech forces 24.9% of possession, so they're 5th in the country. So right now, Texas Tech is way better at forcing turnovers than West Virginia. Last year West Virginia was 2nd in the nation, and like I said, this year they're 201st in the nation. And you look at this team talent-wise. Offensively, they don't have the guys that they have been having in the past, and I mean, overall, they're just not as talented. I mean, it doesn't matter what system you play; you still got to have talent. And they're the result of that. They've lost to Buffalo, Western Kentucky, Florida, Rhode Island. I mean, their best win was against Pittsburgh. I mean, that's the only top 100 team they've beaten this year is Pitt. So I'm definitely down on West Virginia. Texas Tech, you got to give Chris Beard credit for what he's done with that program. They've turned it around defensively. They played Duke. I mean, the box score, you look at the final score, shows an 11-point loss to Duke, but they were in that game throughout. They led the majority of the first half, and it was a tight game, but 24 turnovers against Duke, and Duke's not a team that forces them. It was just, I thought, nervousness maybe, or just pressing a little bit by Texas Tech cost them the Duke game. And they had some decent wins. They had a 18-point win over Nebraska on a neutral court. They blew out USC. This is, however, their first true road game of the year. So, bottom line, I really wanted to play Texas Tech here. I'm not laying 4.5. I looked at the total at 137. It looks like an under. I mean, West Virginia has really struggled to score against any team Florida held them to 56 points. They only scored 69 against Pitt. I mean, they're not a very efficient team. They've played a lot of cupcakes where they've scored some points, but I think they're going to struggle against Texas Tech to score. So if I bet anything here, I bet the under. And, I think Texas Tech wins the game, but I didn't think there was a whole lot of value at 4.5.
Brent, we got another game here, 795, 796, 7 p.m. Eastern tip. Georgetown at Butler, 150 the total. Butler looks like minus 8.5 across the board.
Yeah, Georgetown's an interesting team. They, of course, under Patrick Ewing, have really changed their philosophy. They play way more up-tempo than Georgetown ever has under the Thompsons. And, 14th in the country in adjusted tempo. They get it up and down the court. And, so far this year they played 13 games. They've won 10. And their 10 wins basically came against all the cupcakes on their schedule. I guess their best win would be against Illinois or Liberty. The only time they really stepped up in class was a pretty good effort, a 1-point loss to Syracuse. I mean, this team's capable. They've got some size. They've got some talent. Their two young guards have a chance to both be great players. McClung and McKinyo both have a lot of talent, but a very young team. They don't play great defense. This is their obviously the conference opener against Butler, which is coming off their worst performance since like 1983 or something. I mean, they got drilled by Florida, a team they had already beaten this year on a neutral court, and then on Saturday they go to the Swamp and lose 77-43. I mean, just an absolutely dreadful performance for Butler, and I think you'll see them play a lot better on their home court, and they're going to be playing a team that in Georgetown that doesn't play defense anywhere near as good as Florida does. So I think you're going to see a much better effort from Butler. It's kind of crazy to see a Butler total at 150, but the way Georgetown plays with their pace and lack of defense, I'm not really jumping on the bandwagon to bet it under. I actually like Butler here. I think they will bounce back and get a victory. And 8.5 seems a little bit low for what Butler's capable of doing on their home court. And considering some of the wins that they've had in the weak Georgetown schedule, I think you get two freshman guards in their first conference road game, a tough place to play. I think you'll see Butler come out with a win.
Brent, let's head back to the Big 12 for the next two. We got 8:17, 8:18, 9 p.m. Eastern tip. Texas, Kansas State, 129 the total. Looks like K-State -2 at home.
Yeah, this one, there's been a lot of movement here. Kansas State opened at 4 and 123.5. We're up to 128.5, and Kansas State down to 2. So the money's obviously coming in on Texas and the over. And this is just a game that I look at. I see two teams that really focus on defense. They always have under these coaches, Shaka Smart at Texas and then Bruce Weber at Kansas State. Right now, Kansas State is second in the country in defensive efficiency. Texas is 10th. Both teams will not. They'll take they're basically they're going to play slow. I mean, they have a fast break opportunity. They're going to take it, but you're not going to see either team running out off of made baskets. I don't understand the line move here. I mean, at 123.5, I didn't have any interest in playing it, but at 128.5, I would make a small play on the under just because these two teams are so good defensively. And Kansas State, I mean, you look at actually both teams. I mean, they've had trouble scoring. Kansas State in their last 5 games, the most points they've scored is 71, and they also were held to 46 by Tulsa, 55 in a win against Southern Miss. They beat George Mason their last time out, scoring 59. And then you look at Texas. I mean, against VCU, they scored 53 points in a loss, only 59 at home against Radford. So both teams, kind of middle of the road offensively, but very, very good defensively. Should not be a very high-paced game. So I think the under is the way to play this one.
We got another one here, 821-822, Oklahoma at Kansas, 150.5 the total. Looks like Kansas, the Jayhawks, -8 at home, Brent.
I think Oklahoma may be the biggest surprise of definitely in this conference, and one of the biggest surprises in the nation. Right now they're at 11-1. They've got some nice wins. I mean, they really only played one or two cupcakes, and those were the 2 games they played to open the season. Both of those were on the road against UT Rio Grande Valley and UT San Antonio. And since then, everybody they've played has been a pretty decent team. And the only loss came to Wisconsin. They also beat Florida, Notre Dame, Creighton, Northwestern on the road in their last game. I mean, it's been – for a team that lost Trae Young and it seemed like had just a group of pretty good players, no real superstars, you didn't really know what to expect with Oklahoma, but what they've done has been very, very solid. And, it's been just all those guys contributing something. I mean, they really don't have a superstar. Christian James, their best player. But they've got a lot of other guys that have really contributed. And, I don't think they're a joke. I mean, their resume speaks for itself with what they've done. Of course, they play Kansas tonight. It's always tough to win in Kansas. I saw that Kansas has won 27 straight conference openers, which is amazing. They won like 14 straight titles, but to win the openers 27 straight times is pretty remarkable. But, I've seen Kansas at times this year. I thought, boy, they're really good. And then I've seen them at other times and thought they're okay. I mean, they had to go to overtime to beat Stanford. They had a very close home win against Villanova. They lose to Arizona State on the road a couple weeks ago. And, just haven't really been consistent offensively for the season. I mean, they still have probably 2 of the best wins. I mean, when you consider they beat Michigan State and Tennessee on neutral courts, it's hard to find 2 better wins than those. So it shows you what they're certainly capable of. But, I look at this one. They're currently at 8.5. The total is at 151. And, again, you've got 2 teams that are in the top 10 of the nation in defense. I mean, both teams have really played solid defensively. Both teams very capable offensively. You look at the tempo. Both teams like to play fast. So you're going to have a lot of possessions. I could see this one going a lot of different ways. I don't think you're going to see a really high scoring game where it's 85-80 like it was last year, or I think the other game was 104-74 last year. I don't think you're going to see something that's in the 160s or 170s. Because the defenses are so good. And I think offensively, both teams are a little less have a little less firepower than they did last year. But I could also see this one being played in the 60s if it really, if the defenses take over and it kind of gets into a grind late in the game where it slows way down. So I lean a little bit to the under, lean a little bit to Oklahoma here.
What, Brent, Villanova came into Lawrence and gave Kansas pretty much everything they could handle. It came down to the last possession of the game, and both teams struggling at the free throw line, under 70%. Like you said, 2 top 10 teams defensively and 2 top 30 teams in terms of pace, so it will be there up and down the court. My question to you is, with even Kansas struggling from the free throw line, under 70% in this 5 to 10 point spread range, I factor that in a lot. It kind of makes me want to be on the dog here at Oklahoma +8. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I think that Oklahoma's the way I would play it, and the Kansas Villanova game. Kansas had every opportunity in that game. I mean, it wound up as a 3-point loss, and I think Villanova had like a desperation 3 to tie it, if I'm not mistaken. But it was Kansas missing free throws, and also had a couple of turnovers in the last couple minutes of that one. And really, that one wound up going. I think it went over the total. It wound up at 145, and the total might have been 144 or something. And it was a dead nuts under. It was 33-31 at halftime with 5 minutes to go. It was a game that was, if you had the under, you thought, I'm in great shape. It was like 60-50, something in that range. And then the last 2 minutes, Villanova scored a layup every time down the court. Kansas made a free throw or two. I mean, it was a horrible beat if you bet under in that game. And, this one I think kind of could be very similar. But I don't really, you look at what Villanova's done, and, embarrassed by Michigan, lose to Furman, lose to Penn. I think Oklahoma has a much better resume than Villanova. So I'm not, it wouldn't surprise me at all if it was Oklahoma that led in the second half of this game and you didn't have to result or hope for missed free throws to cover. I could see Oklahoma very easily. It's going to be hard to win this game, but it could be right down to the wire as far as determining the outcome.
I like it, Brent. Hey, and guys, we got the coupon code WEEK69, WEEK69 at checkout to give you Brent Crow or any Sportsmemo all access 7-day for the price of a 3-day. That's just $69. WEEK69 is the coupon code at sportsmemo.com at checkout. Brent, we got one game left here. It's the late night tip, the degenerate special, whatever we're going to be calling it on the podcast. Give some of our West Coast guys or just people that like to stay up late like myself. We got 831-832 Utah State at Nevada, Mountain West matchup here. 148.5 the total, seeing -9 pretty much across the board. That's Nevada laying at home. This one, 11 p.m. Eastern tip on ESPNU. So a game people are able to watch on national television here, Brent. How would you look to bet Utah State, Nevada?
I was really impressed with Utah State early in the season. I wound up and cashed a few tickets with Utah State and also over very early in the season, but it was amazing how quickly, once again, the market moves. And Utah State didn't cover their last game against Houston, didn't cover against Weber, lost outright to BYU. So, people other teams definitely are not being surprised by Utah State anymore. And also, I saw them rated as high as like 40. I watched them play. They're good. Sam Merrill has been terrific. They got a freshman, Keita, that has been very solid inside. But I don't think they're ready to be one of the. I don't have them as a tournament team right now. They're probably going to get a lot of wins in the Mountain West because the Mountain West is horrible. But I don't think they're anywhere near the level of Nevada. And they may be getting a little bit too much respect here, going on the road to open conference play. Nevada's been great. They're undefeated, but they've also kind of struggled as far as I don't know if it's motivation or what it is, but they struggled with home wins against Akron and South Dakota State, Grand Canyon. They just haven't been absolutely dominant until their last game against Utah. That was a 15-point road win. And now I just think that they may be just the fact that their opening conference play may get them on all on the same page with a little more energy tonight against Utah State. It's going to be there'll be a big crowd here for Nevada. And, I think they're going to be challenged. The players feel like they'll be challenged with Utah State coming in. This is, like I said, this is the second best team in this league. So, but I don't think they're going to be able to compete. I didn't like what Utah State played at BYU. And BYU's nothing special. BYU had at one point like a 25-point lead in that game. It was never close and wound up winning by 15. I think, as a matter of fact, it was a 22-point lead in the first half for BYU, and Utah State never really made a run. And I didn't see, like I said, they're a good team, but I didn't see the talent that Nevada has. So I think Nevada is going to win this one fairly easily. I think the price may be a little bit cheap, and I kind of like it to go over the total because if Nevada wakes up, I mean, they're certainly capable of scoring 90 points here. In this one, if Nevada reaches 90, I think it's about guaranteed it's going to go over the total here.
Brent, today's card's decent. Tomorrow's card, we got a 75 game, maybe even more on the Thursday slate, and then of course Saturday's card is right around the corner. You feeling good about college basketball betting wise?
I am, and what happens, I think, Drew, when you open the college basketball season in November, you have some edges, and I think I was able to take advantage of them. And then you get around Christmas, and as non-conference play starts winding down, and those edges that you had real early, where you knew that teams were better, worse, faster, slower than they were supposed to be, those have kind of evaporated. But then when conference play starts, it's like starting the season all over again, because there's a huge difference in conference play and non-conference play. I mean, that's starting at the very top, ACC, Big 12, all the way down to Sun Belt. I mean, there's a huge difference in conference play, and yet I think it takes a long time before the conference play is factored in correctly. You have to make adjustments. All these teams and coaches, they play differently. I mean, conference play is just a totally different animal. So you can look at what's happened before conference play, but that doesn't translate into conference games in a lot of team situations. So there are some advantages out there that, like I said, it's like starting a new season over, and you can't just go by what's happened before this season. I mean, it gives you a base to look at, but you better not use it exclusively.
All right, Brent. Well, good stuff, man. And everyone out there, remember the coupon code WEEK69 at checkout for Brent Crow or any Sports Memos Handicappers 7-day all-access pass. That's just for the price of 3 with that coupon code WEEK69. Brent, thanks for the time. We'll have you on Friday's podcast talking the big Saturday college basketball card, getting the listeners on the right side for that. Great time to be a sports bettor here. January, Saturday, college basketball cards with so much for the odds makers to do. So for Brent Crow, I'm Drew Martin. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Best of luck with your bets.